All right, team. It's happening again. We're doing it. We're doing a live Q&A. We're going to set fire to relationships. We're going to burn them up instead of down. How does that sound? You know, one of my favorite lines from Alan Watts is where he says, we talk about falling in love. Why don't we talk about rising in love? So let's rise. What's up, Alaska? Anxious Heart's Guide. What's up, Nat Lass? What's up, Dubai? What's up, catacody? What's up, gemsy 82? Bet that's your year of birth. Same with you, duels 1980. What's up, Balanced Life? What's up, Garcia? What's up, Jessica? Hi, hello. How do you know when you're ready to begin dating? You just feel like it. Maybe you're a little afraid of doing it. What's up, Chris? Maybe you're just afraid of starting. You know, like, you're never going to be perfectly ready. And some people might be like, I'm ready to date, and then they go. But, you know, if you're someone who isn't sure, that's okay. Just, you know, I always think about it, it's like when you're starting a job, you know, and they're like, this job's going to be hard. You know you're going to have to grow into it. You're going to have to learn some shit. That's how you'll feel when it's time to start dating. Like, I'm afraid to start dating because I'm afraid to get hurt. Classic, pretty normal. And how can I date and learn and grow? Because, you know, like, avoiding relationships isn't the solution to avoiding getting hurt. Learning how to be in a relationship and manage and have boundaries and have all the things, right? That's what's important. Most of us think like, well, I'm never getting married because marriage leads to divorce. No, dysfunctional relationships lead to divorce and other things. You know, it's complex. But avoiding marriage it's not the solution, because then you're going to enter a relationship thinking, I'm never going to get married and it's going to protect me. No, just redefine what marriage means for you, but actually learn the skills to be good at relationship. That's really the invitation. Okay, let's kick it. We're going to question 1. We're going to have lots of fun. All right? All right? That's how you have fun. We're going to have fun, okay? Just fuck, all right? Since I have an anxious attachment style, do I need to look to date someone with a secure attachment style? Or is it possible to work on my anxiety in a relationship while I'm dating someone avoidant? I don't know how to work on becoming more secure. I'm constantly on edge, and I feel, I have a feeling that I am being avoided. I mean, listen, if you're anxious, an avoidant person is not going to be good for you. But an avoidant person's really not great for anybody, just like an anxious person can be annoying AF, right? We all can be. I'm sure to an anxious person, a secure person seems annoying because they're boring. You know, like, why do you like me? You keep telling me you want to choose me. Ugh, why aren't you running? I want to chase you and be uncertain about where I fit. That sounds so much better, right? So either way, we have to learn how to sit in something that's uncomfortable, even if safety is the thing that we're learning to sit in. Isn't that kind of fascinating, right? Like, this is a great question. Like, if you're anxious, can you heal with someone who's avoidant? Yeah, of course you can. But it's going to be a lot harder. It's definitely going to be a lot harder. Like, imagine hanging out with this guy who's swearing at me. Comes on here, swears. He's annoying. See, I'm not anxious. I'm like, bye, we have good boundaries here. We just get rid of this guy. Okay, there we go. See, that's what you got to do in a relationship too. If someone's avoidant, call them forward. Hey, this is what I'm looking for. You're looking for it? Great. Not great. And inside, if you're anxious, you're like, oh my God. But if they don't say yes, like, I'm screwed. And then they say, I can't be in this then. And you're like, no. But you don't chase, right? Like, maybe for the first time in your life, you don't over pursue. You don't leave yourself for them anymore. And then what you see is that you're unstuck. Then what you see is you're secure. So you could certainly learn it. It's going to be one of the greatest tests of you. Like, you're really, you know, it's kind of like if you're learning how to set boundaries. You don't want to start with your mom. Mom's the hardest. Mom, dad, family, they're the hardest. Start with something simple, you know? Start with someone simple where you're just like, oh, it's a friend or a coworker. No, I can't make it tonight. have a previous commitment. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And you're like, cool? Are you sure? Right? So this is how we learn, right? This is how we learn. So you can watch this later. It'll be on my feed. So do you need to date someone who's secure? It's ideal. I mean, listen, if you're anxious or you're secure, it's ideal to date someone who's secure. If you're avoidant, it's ideal to date someone who's secure. An anxious person's going to drive you bananas because they're going to be like, what are you doing? Where do I fit? What's going on? And the avoidant person's like, oh my God, like there's way too many emotions here. You want too much. See, what happens though, and why anxious people find avoidant people is because they validate each other's view of the world. An anxious person's like, when I like people, they don't like me as much. They want space. They don't want the same thing as me. Of course, an avoidant person's perfect for that. And then the avoidant person's like, when I like people, they're too needy. They want more than I want. And then of course, you're like, yep, there's an anxious person for you. So sometimes avoidant people can seem secure till you actually make a request or till you have a conversation. Anyone who, like if they don't follow through on what they say they're going to do, if they say they want something and then later they're like, I'm not sure I actually want a relationship, that's classic avoidant. So that's why you can't just jump deep into relationship right away. You got to allow the relationship to unfold. Anxious people want to speed that shit up. They want to lock it down. They want to get that relationship status changed. And avoidant people are like, can we just take a second, So when we know our attachment style, we can completely change how we relate. Now remember, your style is not your identity. So if you're like, I tend to be anxious, or that person tends to be avoidant, it's like, you can change it. So you might be prone, like if you're normally anxious attachment, you might be, what I would say is, as you learn to get secure, you earn security, you learn security, you might be prone to anxiety, right? Like you're prone to an anxious response. If you're avoidant, you're prone to wanting to distance, right? And you can have mixed attachment styles, of course, because if you switch between them, you can have different reasons for different attachment styles. And, I have a course coming out with Sylvie Kwokashian, who you're going to, if you don't know her, she's fucking incredible on attachment. Attachment 101 is what it's called. She's an attachment master. You're going to learn how to change it, how to do all the things. So yeah, you can switch styles. This is the versatility of being human, right? We can switch styles, but if you can switch styles fast between anxious and avoidant, you can probably switch and become secure. Right? Yes, you can. So that's the beauty of it, is you can learn it. You can change it. So we're not static. We're human. We're ever evolving. You're going to have a whole bunch of new cells in 18 months or whatever it is, where all of them become new, and this tooth's not even this tooth anymore, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a tooth scientist, but, it sounds good. Okay. Let's see here. Next question. Actually, let's finish up this one. Is it possible to work on my anxiety in the relationship while I'm dating someone avoidant? We already said, not a great idea. You can certainly do it. You're really putting yourself in the pressure cooker. I don't know how to work on becoming more secure. I'm constantly on edge and I'm feeling as though I'm being avoided. You might even get someone who's secure and still, because you're anxious, you're highly attuned to potential threats to security. So what I would say is no matter what, you're going to be looking to validate the narrative that you are being avoided and that maybe you're not enough. And so this is learning how to sit within ourselves, learning how to sit in the space of the story that we tell ourselves. Am I looking at this story, this dating experience, through the lens that I am being avoided? And that's where you have to start exploring that. Okay. Let's see here. Does it bother me that 99% of my audience is women? That's actually not true. About 80% is. And that improve their relationship. And what's your explanation? Do I have to have an explanation? What's my explanation? Well, women seek relational information more than men do. Think of the socialization of men and women. It's just natural that would occur. Now, of course, men and women are both emotional beings. Humans are emotional. And so who's it makes sense, right? You know, like Harriet Lerner's work, who I did a podcast with her, she's incredible. She talks about how any subordinate group needs to learn the nuances of the dominant group. So, you know, what happened is that, you know, women needed to learn the emotionality and how to maintain emotion and manage aggression and anger, especially in men, because it was and is potentially dangerous. So that's ultimately the theory behind why that happens. Now, with all that said, we got some homies here. We got some men here. So they're not 99.9. They're like 74.2, and it's changing. Shit, it's changing. Hey, men, tell all your men. Let's get all the men on here. It's great. Because let's be honest, this could turn into a dating app. I've seen people, you know, hang out. I've had people meet on my Instagram and get married, actually. That's true. True story. True story. Okay, second question. Mark, I am very anxious attachment. I love how it's part of the identity. Mark, I'm very anxious attachment. Not Mark, my name is Tom. And sometimes I have anxiety. Do you notice when we say I am something, you have to be it? Right? Like anytime you say I am angry, I am sad, you become the thing you say you are. And then there's no space for you to be anything else. So, Mark, language matters, right? Tom, your name's probably not Tom, but could be Tom. Tom, you have the possibility of being more prone to anxious attachment style. By the time I am involved with someone, I feel like it's too late. I've already caught up in the cycle of chasing someone avoidant again. It feels like there is a reward being given to that part of my brain each time they finally give me attention. I'm having a difficult time not being attracted to this kind of person. Feels like a drug addiction where there's a craving, then a high, then I'm low again, and the cycle repeats. This causes an incredible amount of sexual chemistry. I'm having a difficult time breaking this cycle and would like to learn more to know if I can rewire my brain. Are there mental exercises that I need to be doing? Well, the first part is that I would suggest that you take a little bit of a vacation from the ding-a-ling-ding-ding, you know, from intimacy, from excitation, because we have to learn how to recode what we're attracted to. Of course, it's an addiction. I remember when I used to get in on those highs, and I decided never again. I will not chase intimacy. I will not chase it if it's void of connection. And I remember being like, my phone in my hand, wanting to send the text. This was years ago. And I remember being like, oh, it was like calling a dealer, you know, calling the booty. And I was like, I can't do it. And I didn't do it, but it felt much like giving up a drug. And in a way it is, you know, because when you're in this cycle where you are anxious, right? So then you crave, and then you get the hit, and maybe you engage in sexual activity, and you don't know where you fit, and then it restarts. They don't call you, they don't message you, you're not getting the aftercare that is necessary for intimate experiences and important. And so you then go into this low, and then you get the hit, and it might just be the zombie move, like they're popping out of nowhere, and they're like, it's 2 a.m., want to hang out? Not, it's 2 p.m., 2 a.m., so you know what's down. They don't think about you till they're eating the pizza after the bar, or they finished at the club and they struck out, and then you're getting hit up to, you know, provide a soft landing place, so to speak, right? So you hit the low, then you get the high, oh, they want me, and then you get the rush of the arousal and the desire that treats the pain of abandonment and rejection. And so the cycle continues where we don't actually learn to sit. It's likely an original wound of abandonment and rejection. And so we learn, and there's many reasons for this, but we could have learned to appease in order to get connection, to bend and break ourselves in order to get connection, to be malleable in order to get connection, to adapt. And this is what we talk about being like having a low tolerant or a low accountability threshold, right? That I set this very low level of accountability just to maintain connection. So the price of admission to get into my life is really fuck all. You don't even have to keep your word. You just have to message me sometimes. You don't have to be reliable even. And what treats the pain of the fear that you're going to leave me or that you are always leaving me and coming back is the arousal and the hit of the message on my phone. And so the point is, you got to take a break. You got to take a break because you got to explore that. You got to explore the pain and the rejection, because if I am in relation with you and I'm putting myself into intimate relation with you, but I'm only doing it to keep you, I'm also in a space of manipulation too, right? And so there's this, both people are actually abandoning themselves in order to be in connection. We often vilify the person who's getting the intimacy, but the person who's giving the intimacy is also self-abandoning and using it as a manipulative tactic to get something, right? Just like someone else might be presenting, I want a relationship, and they actually don't. That's very manipulative too. Or I don't want a relationship and you actually do. That's manipulative too. All of this is not truth, right? And so we take a break from it in order to learn how to relate to it again differently, right? This is how I can learn how to go from being anxious or avoidant to secure. But the other part of this is that this isn't so much about, like, so often we think if I take some space to just breathe and learn how to be by myself, when I enter a relationship, it'll all be different. It will be somewhat different, but you can't change your patterns without being in the patterns, right? Like, I'm great at being and having boundaries on my own, but then when I get into a relationship with someone and I have to have my own boundaries along with yours, I have to navigate who I am versus who you are. I mean, that's a whole different subset of rules and regulations and engagements and skills that we can all learn. So, long way around the barn, as Terry Cole would say. It is, so you got to take some time. There's mental exercises that you need to be doing. The exercise is to take space and breathe and give yourself some time to learn how you relate. Somatic experiencing would be great to relate to your body, learn how your body responds to connection, right? That would be really good too. So let's get into it. I feel like we handled that one, didn't we? You got to stop dating people that keep you in the cycle, right? Like, isn't that it? It's so simple. You know that movie, He's Not That Into You? It was brilliant because it just told the truth. It's like, oh, he told me he wants something, but he then doesn't message me and doesn't pursue me. He's not that into you, right? Like, it's pretty simple, And it's kind of like, well, I want relationship, but I say that I want a very serious relationship. But yet, when I go to enter a relationship, I tell them I don't want something serious and I engage in just casual sexual encounters. Well, I don't care what you choose to do. It doesn't matter to me. There's no morality associated with this. What is important is to recognize that what you say you want is different than what you're actually doing. And so you could figure out where that comes from, and there's a lot of compassion for where it comes from. But you still got to change it, because when there's a space between what you say you want and what you're actually choosing, there's an unconscious belief that's operating in the background that's causing you to choose something different than what your integrity says you should be choosing. And so you can instantly say, okay, well, what would be alignment with my integrity? Oh, it would be not choosing this. It would be doing this. It would be changing this. And you start doing those things. It's some of the hardest work, because to get back into alignment with you, you got to say no to all the shit that rewards you that's not in alignment with you. If you want to feel good about yourself, you got to make good choices. You got to be in alignment with your values. And if you don't know what you value, just look at who you look up to, because who you look up to are people whose values you want to emulate. And so if you want to feel free, you want to feel light, you want to feel happy, get into integrity with who you say you are and what you say you want. If you do that, you're free. You won't even fuck around. You get on a dating app, you're like, I'm looking for this. The other person's like, I'm looking for this. You're like, great. Or it doesn't match. And you're like, bye. Awesome, because I'm in integrity with myself. That's all that matters. If you're in alignment with you, none of it matters. I did see this dating coach the other day who said, listen, I got mad respect for everybody teaching, sharing, but said, don't ask a guy what he wants early in the dating process, because he's still learning as he's dating you. And I'm like, that's such bullshit. Like, first off, I'm a guy. Don't put me in this camp of that dating assumption. Like, if someone knows what they want, they're going to tell you at the beginning. And if they don't, they'll tell you that too. I don't know what I'm looking for right now. I've been through some serious things. And I'm still exploring. What I know is I'm not looking for anything serious because I don't know what I'm looking for, right? When someone says I don't know what I'm looking for, they're not looking for something serious. You know? Because he said, well, when you find it, they just know. And then their men are taking, it might take them weeks or months. I'm like, shit, swipe left to that shit. And, you know, I might have had a view that was similar historically. I just don't have that view now. And, you know, that's the beauty of evolution, of changing. I respect someone else's opinion of that. But for me, you know, a lot of my points of view have changed over the years too. So if you want to go back and look, I'm sure I gave some poor advice at the beginning. So don't look. It's changed and evolved, and I'm sure there'll be more changes in the future. Okay, Mark, number 3. Mark, I'm a chronic overtexter, caller, planner. I can't stop my anxious attachment from ruining my relationships. The thing is, I know that I'm getting in my own way and that I'm too much and too needy. And I can see I'm literally pushing them away, but I can't stop. Then it's too late when people start to shy away or leave. How do I get out of my own way to give a healthy relationship a chance? Ooh, this one's tough, right? Because you got to learn how to sit in the discomfort of not knowing where you fit yet. You got to sit in the discomfort of the anxiety that new relationships and dating always brings. The need to control. I'm a chronic overtexter, caller, planner. I am too needy and too much, right? And then what will happen is that belief drives the behavior that I'm afraid you're going to leave, so I'm going to cling, I'm going to chase, I'm going to go after you. And then it's too much, it's overwhelming, and we all know it can be. And the other person is like, ooh, I gotta go. And so we validate the fact that I'm too much or too needy. And I know it sounds like we should say, well, they're just not a good fit. Well, if someone leaves you because you're too needy, too texty, too planny, too cally, I don't know if you can say those things, but whatever, then it is true. It's a good message for you to receive. So you can finally sit in the space of the abandonment and the rejection that you're being invited to sit in. The discomfort of what happens when you don't engage in those behaviors. What happens when you don't send the text or the call or the plan? I'm not saying, I don't know, like over planning is maybe a little tough one to put our finger on, right? To be like, well, what are you doing next Tuesday? And you like just left the date. What's happening Tuesday? Can we do something? You know, instead of, I think it's natural though when you're done a date and you're like, hey, I had a great time. I'd love to see you again. What's next week look like for you? You know, great. So I don't want to, I think the over planning can be too much. But texting and calling, listen, some people won't even call. And then I'd say that's more of a marker. First off, we've normalized that calling isn't normal. So then when someone calls, they're like, can you believe they fucking called me? Like, the person called me. I don't want to be called. That is too much. It's not too much. That's actually a green flag go. You know, wouldn't you rather hear them? It's just like when someone FaceTimes. Like, FaceTime someone early in the dating process, because 6 months down the road, you know, you realize you're not even talking to the actual person. They're like, my phone doesn't work. My FaceTime doesn't work. These are all such red flags. I don't have Zoom. I don't have this, but I have Tinder. You know, but I have Christian Mingle. I have all these other things. But like, make a fucking phone call. Get to know someone. You get so much more information from hearing them. And, you know, if you're an over texter and an over caller, you got to learn how to sit in the behavior that you're trying to appease and numb and treat and I'm trying to remember the word. You're trying to calm a feeling by doing the thing. So I can't hold on to the tension. So then what I do is I put the tension off to you. And then when you hit me back up, my tension's gone. I feel connected. I feel like you like me. I feel safe. But really I don't, because I just got it from you. So if you don't give it to me, I don't have it anymore. So if you want to learn how to date securely, if you want to learn how to go from anxious or avoidant to secure, you have to learn how to sit in that space. And this is, you know, why I created the course why I am partnering in a course with Sylvie Kakashian. And I'm not saying that in the traditional Armenian way, I get that. I would butcher it. I'm not good at pronouncing it. As opposed to my other accents, that one, not very good. But it's on attachment and how to do that. It's on how do you change that? How do you sit in that little space? Because, man, it's hard. Especially if you've never sat in it. Especially if you go to your phone to look at Instagram when you're feeling it. Or you send a sexy pic to someone else. Or you go read the news. Or you read a tweet that you're not actually able to sit in it. And there's so many distractions in this world from being able to sit in anything. Think about it. People can't even sit in line at a Starbucks without having their thumb on their phone. Like, I guess I better check the weather. Oh, what's happening on Twitter? Oh, what's happening on Instagram? Oh, as opposed to missing this world that is going on in front of you. That's what we got to start doing, is being here, Because if I can be here and I can be present with this, then when the feeling comes up, oh, they have a message. Oh, I don't know where, I could sit in it. I don't need to engage in a behavior that pulls me away from here because I'm uncomfortable with here. You learn how to sit in here. Okay. Handled it. All right, next one. Hi, Mark. I'm working on my fear of abandonment, and I tend to avoid deep, meaningful relationships and end new ones early on to try to protect myself from being rejected or getting hurt. My question is, how do you tell if the fear or uncertainty you're feeling in a new relationship is coming from intuition, the other person is a wrong fit for you, or if it's just your avoidant tendencies? What a great question, right? Like, how do I distinguish between my fear of closeness or my fear of expansion, right? My fear of what love is actually asking of me. This is really important. Now, I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't lie anyways, but I'm not going to lie. This is hard. You might get it wrong. I got it wrong. I've gotten it wrong. But you're not getting it wrong. Because here's the thing. If you say no to something that is actually a good fit, and then you learn that you said no to it and it was a good fit, you just learned how to differentiate that feeling, right? Like you learned how to what is the difference between I'm afraid of closeness or I'm afraid of expansion. And so as you do that, you're able to figure it out by doing, right? By taking responsibility to it too. Like, oh, I pushed away that person and they were a great fit. I'm afraid of being too close. Okay, how do I do that? How do I get a little closer? How do I last a little longer, right? And you could go back to them and you could say, look, I realize that I'm afraid of closeness. I'm afraid of being loved. And so I ended this too early and I want to give it another go. I want to give it another try. Would you be open to that? And they might go, no. And then you're like, okay, because I won. I came back. I did it. I'm growing. I expanded. Right? I did the thing that I've never done before. I came and repaired. I owned my behavior, and they're not a good fit for you if you came and did that. And so, but you learned and you grew, and the next time you're like, is this just not a good fit, or is this? And you're like, this is a good fit. I'm afraid of closeness. Okay. Woo. All right, let's go. Let's get into this. Let's stay a little longer. Let's tell them. And then as you're dating them, you might be like, hey, like I got to share with you. Like when I get a little close to you, I get a little afraid and I just wanted to bring that forward. And they might be like, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And you're like, hey, no problem. And then you're like, wait, that went pretty good. What the fuck do I do now? I've never been here before. Right? And it's so good because you're learning, you're growing. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty. It's such a beautiful moment to get to where you allow yourself expansion and you don't let fear pull you away. I remember hearing Tony Robbins when he was talking about why does he do cold plunges? And he said, because I don't negotiate with my fears that aren't real. And I love that. That made me start to do cold showers because I realized my brain is going, you're going to die of hypothermia. But I'm not dying of hypothermia. I'm actually perfectly safe. So I was learning how to broaden my own window of tolerance, my ability to observe my body's response that says, you're going to die of hypothermia, and mine, where I'm like, oh, I'm actually okay. Oh, and I'm observing my biological response, and then I'm broadening my awareness, right? So this is what it's all about, is broadening our awareness and growing as human beings, right? And so if I'm working on my fear of abandonment, and I tend to avoid deep, meaningful relationships, and I end new ones early, you already know this. This is such a beautiful level of awareness. So I might be like, okay, last time I did that, when did I end it too early? What was the feeling? What was the trigger? I'm not going to do that again. And then you start to let yourself sit a little longer in the discomfort. And what you realize is that when you end relationships that are healthy early on to protect yourself, you are abandoning your desire for connection. You're actually abandoning your very much, your very worthiness to be in relationship, to be loved, to be loved and to be connected. And I think so often, because abandonment is such a wound that comes from our childhood and very real, it's that we're still operating as a child, right? Like, I'm afraid that if you leave me, I won't survive and I won't be lovable. And as an adult, could you imagine if a kid said that to you? Like a 3-year-old said, well, mom left, it must be because I'm not lovable. Well, that's why every adult who sees a kid have a parent leave, for whatever reason a parent leaves, needs to say, it's not about you. It's never been about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. And that scene makes me think of that scene from Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's such a good scene. And when I see the language there of like, a guy just ran from me. Did he run from you or did he run from a mirror? Right? Like, it's a very different language. He didn't run from you. He ran from closeness. He ran from relationship. Now, very often we can run from someone, right? Someone who's not great. Someone who's unkind, toxic, run like hell. But with this one, it's such a beautiful thing to recognize that there's a child in you who runs from depth and connection because they are afraid that if I love someone, they're going to leave me and then I will be left incomplete. And what the adult starts to do within this relating, because there's so many parts of us within the relating process, is the adult starts to say, whether they leave or stay, we are here and we are whole, right? And so you just start exploring that. I am here and I am whole, no matter where anyone goes. Okay. Mark, I just found out that I'm anxious. I have an anxious attachment style. You're not anxious. I love this identity. Mark, I just found out that I'm anxious and the guy I'm seeing is avoidant. All our patterns suddenly make sense. I'm always seeking more and feeling he's pulling away. Is there hope for us given how mismatched we are, or should we go our separate ways? Yeah, this is the question. How can two people who have patterns that interrupt each other, feed each other, how can they be together? This cycle. I come too close, you pull away, I come close, you pull away. Eventually we're like, this fucking doesn't work, bye, right? Or the person runs so far away that you can't even get to them, or they move or ghost you or block you or whatever. So in this, of course you can. One person, the anxious person, is moving towards the space that the avoidant person is distancing with, right? So we think about that. Two people, I'm avoidant, I'm moving here. This person's like, I'll move here, and then maybe here. And this person's like, okay, I'm going to go there. And what happens is this person needs to learn how to stay right here. And this person likely needs to learn how to just come here. And so usually it's the anxious person who's initiating this conversation. Sorry, anxious people. You tend to be the one who are more likely to seek relational information. You also tend to be the one who wants to fix things. You're the one chasing love. The other person's running from it. So it makes sense that you're the one who has to do the initial move. But it doesn't mean that it's not an important move. It's probably the most important move of your life. So you're here, and they're like, kind of like this, right? And then you're like, no. You just lean in a bit, but you don't step into their space. So you lean in and you say, hey, I noticed that when this happens, you lean out. Or I noticed that da-da-da. Or you said that this is what you want, and now you're saying this. So you're calling them forward. But you are not leaving yourself. And so this is how we heal anxiety attachment. Well, it's a little more complex than that, but it's in its simplest form, it's like that. And that invitation to the avoidant person is to lean in a bit. Ooh, too much. Oh, right? And this person, oh my God, I keep wanting to go this way, and they keep wanting to go this way. And so what you're learning is how to actually stand in the space between the two people. We think it's about learning about the relationship to them, but it's actually about learning how to navigate the space between our relationship with us and them. So this is helpful, right? Because for an avoidant person, this is some of the hardest work in the world. Closeness leads to pain. I want to have space that I can control. Distance for the anxious person leads to pain. So the avoidant person is like, oh man, we're touching wounds. I got to trust love again. What we really have to do is trust ourselves again. Trust ourselves again. And so as we do that, it's by having boundaries, by having communication, by learning what's going on in your system, learning what's going on in theirs. In the course that Sylvie's teaching on Attachment 101, which you actually can get access to it today, the early bird starts today, createthelove.com/attachment101. In it, she talks about the different attachment styles, getting to know yours, relating to other attachment styles, how they influence and dance with one another, and how to change them. So, I mean, it's super powerful. And in this work, it's like, can it work out for an anxious person and avoidant person? Of course. And this is the invitation that relationship provides. It invites us to heal. Isn't that beautiful? It invites us to heal. Okay. I met an amazing new man. He's kind, thoughtful, funny, fun, and most importantly, very emotionally available and shows up in every way. This guy. Don't put his profile out there. He sounds like a hot commodity. So naturally, I have no sexual attraction to him whatsoever. Oh shit. And I'm wanting to bolt. I'm starting to resent the relationship and I'm feeling like I should return to being single. What I can't decide is, am I just running from healthy love and therefore should sit with the discomfort and ride it out? Or is this a sign that I haven't worked out my avoidant attachment? That is such a good question, right? So he's fun, he's most importantly emotionally available and shows up in every way. Naturally, I have no attraction to him whatsoever and want to bolt. There's some nuance here that I think is really important. When someone is thoughtful, fun, funny, and most importantly emotionally available and shows up in every way, I want to be mindful that what could happen too is that he also still might be codependent. In that, if my niceness is contrived, right? If it's like, yeah, I'll do that for you. I'll do anything for you, my love. Whatever you need. And then you're like, I actually need you to have a boundary. I need you to say no sometimes. I need you to tell me when I'm being unreasonable. And I'm like, no, because you can never be unreasonable. You are perfect. And you're like, I don't want to bang you. Why would I want to bang you? I want to bang someone who can't even stand up for themselves. I want to hump somebody who doesn't have self-respect, right? Because that niceness is contrived. You can't trust it. And so the energetic of it is, I'm getting something from you. I'm doing this kindness, but no one would tolerate or would not give me feedback for what I just did. So you're doing that, so I can't trust you. There's a great line from the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, which is a fantastic book if you identify as a nice guy or a nice person. It's written for men, but it's fantastic, by Robert Glover. And in it he says, if you won't stand up to her, she won't believe you'll stand up for her. And I love that, right? It's like if you don't stand up to her, she won't believe you'll stand up for her. And that could be true in any dynamic of relationship. But I think it's especially true in heterosexual male-female relationships. Is if we're overtly the nice guy, but we lack boundaries, we won't be reliable. And won't be able to trust us because our kindness is contrived. It's secret contracts constantly being created. So I wouldn't say that maybe you don't have sexual attraction to him because you're learning how to recode your sort of relational attraction system, which would mean taking a step back, taking space, allowing it to unfold. If you end it and realize that you really want to work it out, then you're not making a mistake. You're learning from it. But there can be people who are really great that you just don't want to be with, and there's not a desire. Now, the other side of this is if there is codependency. Codependency kills attraction. So let's just explore that little nuance. If we're in an intimate situation And the person you're in that intimate situation with says that, as you're in it, let's say they're eating the cookie, they're going downtown, whatever people use these days, chow in the chow town, whatever it is, and they're down there, and you're like, oh, that would feel better if they did this, right? And then we're like, I don't want to say anything though, because I don't want to hurt their feelings. Death of connection. So right now, you are muting yourself, protecting them from hurt feelings if you gave them feedback. Now you'd be actually creating a customized fellatio cunnilingus machine if you gave them the feedback. But do you notice that on a very subtle level, that not sharing how you really feel and what you really need actually kills chemistry? Because whether you might actually be safe to share it, but you don't know. Maybe someone conditioned you not to protect men or to protect people and their feelings, especially in intimacy, right? But that unconscious reality or conscious reality, what happens is when I'm not sharing it, now I don't feel safe to be all of me. And it perpetuates a relational situation where you are not safe to share what you actually want to share. And lack of feedback means that you don't give a shit or can't. No, I wouldn't say that it means that you don't give a shit. But I appreciate where you're coming from. I would say a lack of feedback, it can be a fear of giving feedback too. Like some of us have been conditioned to not give any feedback, especially if you're looking at female-male dynamics. Women are told not to give any feedback, protect men's egos, protect men's experience. So, I appreciate what you're saying in some moments, but if we were taught about sex and sexuality, we would be like, yeah, learn how to eat that cookie, learn how to do that, learn how to, get that, learn how to do it properly, to do it in a way that the other person enjoys. But instead, because we don't talk about sex and we don't talk about sexuality in an educational way, we make it very robotic and very, we're afraid of actually talking about it. And when we do that, what it does is when we're actually in the situations, we can't share it. And of course, it is an old belief, but old beliefs live really deep in the ether of people's systems. So when someone says they're really nice and I have no sexual attraction and I want to bolt, it could be that it's contrived and you're feeling manipulated or that they don't always tell you the actual truth. So I would just start to explore that. And the other side of it is if you hold back your truth in any way, even in very subtle ways, you are still perpetuating codependency. And so you might look for, if you're in relationship with some really great people and you're like, wait, why am I in relationship with them and I don't desire them? You will look for where both of you are not safe to be yourselves. And it isn't specific to gender, Sam. It is possible with any gender. It's just more often that that's conditioned from the female to male side. But certainly, we could have had very explosive mothers who we gave feedback to and they lost their mind. And then we don't want to give any feedback to anyone. So, yeah. All right. Last question. When should I sleep with someone? When should I sleep with someone? Like, I should be the decider of when. Beep, 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 beep. Now, go! I'm anxiously attached and constantly in a rush to sleep with people when first making a connection. What's the right amount of time before moving things to that level? Well, if you tend to sleep with people initially, and there's no moral judgment, there's no judgments here. This is just a conversation about how we might relate to intimacy and sex. So if I'm anxiously attached and I rush to intimacy, I might have learned that I get a lot of power in my intimacy, that I get desired. I know how to manage desire. And so, historically when I was in my 20s and wounded AF, I would seek sexual connection to see if there was connection. And I remember having this realization of like, I should wait till there's actual connection and then seek intimate connection. Like when there is connection, it's the next step rather than it being the gateway to connection. And it is up to you. There's no right or wrong answer to this. In the context of this person asking the question, if the anxious attachment makes you rush into it, which you're saying that, the right amount of time is more a right amount of feeling, which is if you're prone to giving it away too early, then what it could be is stay within it, hold on to it longer, and then explore the feelings that come up for you if you're holding on to it. Like, I'm afraid that they might reject me, they might leave me, and then you go to seek intimacy. Don't, because you're self-abandoning. You're doing it to get connection. You're doing it to keep somebody. And that never works out well. Instead, feel that you can still be in your body, that you're embodied in your sharing of your body, that you're still here in your heart and in your stomach and in your gut and in your groin, that you're in your body, in your head, you're in all these places when you're in intimacy. And when we do it from a place of anxiety, or a place of pain, or a place of fear, like, I'm afraid you're going to leave me, then we are actually not able to be fully present, right? Like, we're really trying to explore an old thing, right? Great point. Later on, if you regret having sex, if they left you, well, yeah, because you might think, why did I do it so early? They left me because I did it so early, or whatever the beliefs or stories might be around that. But instead, you learn from that, right? And you say, I need to know that I have this level of safety and intimacy before I'm intimate. That's why, even this idea that there is a timeline. There's not a timeline. There's a feeling. There's a trust. There's a sacredness. And, that's all a journey we have to make back. So with all that said, I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to check out that attachment course with Sylvie, it's at createthelove.com/attachment101. Much love. Have a beautiful day.